Okay, so someone out there wanted a deep dive
Yeah.
on something called the Convention on Biological Diversity.
The CBD.
CBD. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing that everywhere in this document.
Yeah.
So CBD,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, just skimming through this before we get started,
Right.
this thing is massive.
It is.
196 countries.
That's most of them.
I mean, that's almost everyone, right?
It's a big deal. This is a big deal.
So this is a big deal.
It is.
For someone like me who, I consider myself pretty well versed in, kind of the big environmental topics.
Right.
This has been flying under my radar.
Yeah, a lot of people.
So
It's kind of under the radar a lot of the time.
it's kind of under the radar, and someone requested this. They've got a meeting coming up on environmental policy,
Oh, cool.
and I can see why, because just from a very high level,
Yeah.
this thing is massive.
It is. It covers everything.
It covers everything.
It's the whole shebang.
It's a whole shebang, everything.
As far as biodiversity is concerned, yeah.
So, I mean, the excerpts that you sent
Uh-huh.
lays out the goal of the CBD, which is like a mouthful here. The conservation of biological diversity, the sustainable use of its components, and the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of the utilization of genetic resources.
That's a long one.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
And so let's start. I mean, we got to start somewhere. Let's start at the top.
Okay.
Conservation of biological diversity. So first of all, why?
Yeah.
On a global scale, why is this so important?
Well, I mean, think about it. We're seeing all this stuff in the news, right? Like, species are going extinct, like crazy habitats are being destroyed left and right.
Right.
So basically, conservation is all about protecting those species and ecosystems. And it's not just because they're like pretty or,
Right.
valuable in and of themselves, but they're essential for us.
Right.
Like, we need them
Yeah.
for clean air, clean water, food, even, regulating the climate.
I mean, we always hear about saving the rainforests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
That's a big part of it. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's the conservation piece.
Mm.
So then we move into sustainable use. So how do you conserve something and use it at the same time?
Well, that's the tricky part, right?
Yeah.
So sustainable use basically means finding ways to utilize these resources
Right.
without completely depleting them for future generations.
Okay.
So imagine you're trying to save a rainforest.
Yeah.
It's not just about saying no logging at all.
Right.
It's about working with local communities
Right.
to develop sustainable logging practices
Okay.
so that they can benefit from the forest,
Right.
but also not destroy it in the process.
Okay, so there's got to be that balance.
Exactly. It's all about balance.
Okay, now this last part,
Yeah.
fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of the utilization of genetic resources.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
This is where I feel like things could get really complicated.
Yeah, absolutely, because
This is where politics come in.
yeah.
This is about who benefits from biodiversity.
And who's been exploited in the past.
Okay.
So, for example, let's say a pharmaceutical company discovers a plant in the Amazon that has amazing medicinal properties.
Right.
Who should profit from that?
Yeah.
Should it be the company?
Right.
Or should it be the indigenous community who's known about that plant's properties for centuries?
That's a great question.
Right.
Yeah.
So the CBD is trying to make sure that those communities get a fair share of the benefits.
So this gets into intellectual property rights and
All of that, yeah.
all of that.
Biopiracy.
Yeah, all of that.
There's a lot there.
Now we're getting into some murky waters here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is serious stuff.
It is.
So then when we bring in biotechnology, which is mentioned a lot in this,
Right.
we get into the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety.
Yeah, that's a big one.
This one sounds a little intimidating, honestly.
It's kind of a mouthful, but it's
Yeah.
basically a global safety net for the age of genetic engineering.
Okay.
We're seeing incredible advancements in biotechnology.
Yeah.
Like crops that are engineered to resist disease.
Right.
But there's also the potential for unintended consequences.
Okay.
What if those modified crops outcompete natural species?
Right.
And cause problems down the line.
Yeah.
So the Cartagena Protocol helps countries assess and manage those risks
Oh, okay.
and make sure that we're handling genetically modified organisms safely.
So proceed with caution.
Exactly.
When it comes to the building blocks of life.
Right. Got it.
Proceed with caution.
So who is actually making all these decisions on a global level?
Right.
You mentioned the Conference of the Parties, or COP.
Yeah, COP.
Is that like a biodiversity summit or something?
It is. It's like the UN for biodiversity.
Okay.
So every 2 years, representatives from all the countries that signed the CBD,
Right.
they get together, they review progress, They set priorities, they make new commitments.
So this isn't just a bunch of countries getting together, signing a piece of paper and calling it a day.
Not at all.
This is an ongoing process. It's a living, breathing thing.
Okay, so give me an example of like what they might decide at a COP.
Okay, well, for example, recent COPs have focused on things like protecting key biodiversity areas,
Okay.
reducing plastic pollution,
Yeah.
and integrating biodiversity considerations into sectors like agriculture and tourism.
Okay.
So it's about making sure the biodiversity is considered in all aspects of our lives,
Right.
not just in protected areas.
So they're looking at the big picture.
Yeah, the whole system.
Okay, so now we've got all these countries.
Right.
We've got these big decisions being made.
Yep.
Who's doing the actual work?
Right. Well, a lot of the groundwork is being done by the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity.
Okay.
They're based in Montreal.
Oh, Montreal.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a trip to Montreal in my future.
It's a great city.
Okay, so seriously, what kind of work do they actually do?
So they're basically the operational headquarters for the CBD.
Okay.
They help countries develop national biodiversity strategies.
Okay.
They provide scientific and technical expertise. They track progress towards global targets.
Right.
And they even help countries access funding for conservation projects.
Wow, so they're doing a lot.
Yeah, they're keeping the wheels turning.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is. It's a massive undertaking.
Okay, so let me just kind of recap here just to make sure I've got this straight.
Okay.
The CBD, this is not just about like, protecting cute animals.
So,
This is about safeguarding the entire web of life
exactly.
that we depend on.
We're all connected.
And it's about finding that sweet spot
Mhm.
between conservation,
Right.
sustainable use,
Yep.
and making sure that everyone benefits fairly from these resources.
And that's the key.
And this all happens through international collaboration, from these high-level summits,
the cops.
the COPs, to the actual boots-on-the-ground work of the Secretariat.
Exactly. It's a team effort.
So, I mean, we've talked about governments and international organizations.
Right.
What about individuals?
Mm.
I mean, what role can everyday people play in all of this?
Well, I think that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And the answer is a lot.
Okay.
I think even small actions can make a difference.
Like what?
Well, think about your consumer choices,
Okay.
like supporting businesses that are sustainable,
Okay.
reducing your own environmental footprint.
Right.
You can support local conservation efforts.
Okay.
Volunteer, donate to organizations that are working to protect biodiversity,
Yeah.
and just spreading awareness.
Right.
Talking to people about the importance of biodiversity.
And knowledge is power.
Right, exactly. The more people know,
Yeah.
the more they'll care.
The more they'll care and the more action we can take.
Exactly.
All right. So
Yeah.
anyone listening out there,
Yeah.
you wanted to know about the CBD. You got a meeting coming up on environmental policy.
Right.
This is clearly a framework that you need to be thinking about.
Absolutely.
So we'd love to hear from you. What resonates with you? What are you going to do to support biodiversity? Let us know, because we're all in this together.
We are.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.